Good afternoon, family. I'm Curtis Cheatham Jr., and welcome to This Week in Black America, July 4th edition. Here's a rundown of the past week's highlights. The big BS bill passed Congress this week, and Trump is expected to sign what I'll dub the reverse Robin Hood bill. We'll discuss the details. Trump also floats the idea of deporting U.S. citizens again, and gets more help from SCOTUS, who says it's okay to deport several people to South Sudan. The problem is they're not from there. So we'll have to clear all that up and discuss it.
Little detail.
Exactly. The 90-day tariff pause is scheduled to restart again this week on July 9th. So we're going to break down what that means to you and what you might expect. And the trial of the century. Nah, not really. The verdict is in on the Diddy trial and has come in, and there's some good news and then there's some bad news. So we'll get into that and sort all that out. All that and more on This Week in Black America. I got my brother with me. Excited to have him here. As always, Brother Deshaun is here with me. How you doing today, brother?
I feel great, and I'm telling y'all right now, just get ready. We are going to try to make this as upbeat as possible. Get some coffee, get something, because, we look forward to where there's a balance, Curtis and I, of, what we call a silver lining stories as we deliver what happened this week and we talk about it. Not too many silver linings this week, but we are going to do what we do here, and we're going to have some fun, and we're going to dialogue and talk about not just what happened, but what we do here every Friday at noon is talk about how it affects us here in Black America as Black Americans. So welcome. If this is your first time here and you're going to spend a couple minutes with us, we'll be around to about the 1:30 hour. And we call you our co-host for a reason. You're not just an audience. Without you dialoguing in the comments, we'll bring your comments right into the show. The show is not going to be what we want it to be. So we welcome all our co-hosts, new viewers, and let's get to it. Kick us off, Curtis. Where do we start?
I just want to start here just because this is, I mentioned the July 4th edition.
Correct.
Now, I don't normally lend a lot of credence to July 4th. To me, it is just the 4th day of July, the day after my nephew's birthday. That's all it really is. And I just want to, as Black America, to just harken back to a speech that was made on actually July 5th, back in 1852 by the great Frederick Douglass. Obviously, Frederick Douglass, if you don't know that name, your black card immediately gets removed. But you can go look him up. A great statesman, of American statesman who just happened to be black. But he wrote this speech. What to the slave is the 4th of July? And this is just an excerpt. This is a much longer speech. There are presentations of it I've seen before, but you can go to the National Archives and you can see, the excerpts from this speech. But what to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days in the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham, your boasted liberty an unholy license, your national greatness swelling vanity. Your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless, your denunciation of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence. Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy.
Brother spitting.
A thin veil
that boy spitting.
to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. Now that's a bar, as they say. As the young folks say, that's a bar.
Absolutely.
A profound
so accurate.
Speech, a profound speech you know, as I was reading it, I got a little, you know, the chill bumps because it's like, wait a second, this was written in 1852.
Could have been written today.
So very well in 2025. You could say pretty much all of this. You know, you couldn't call
Frederick Williams in Alabama today could have wrote that.
Exactly.
And it would have been like, yo, that sounds real accurate.
Oh my goodness. Any thoughts on this excerpt on this 4th of July, the 249th birthday of the United States of America?
Listen, we are not the same. So let's just put it out there. And I think there's a good percentage of people in this country that are starting to see that the things that we've spoken about as Black Americans that y'all called overreacting or making these things up in our imagination and all of that, you're starting to see what it's like when the system is against you. You can't, and what's amazing is now this 4th of July, you have a ton of people around the country of all races who are just not happy with what's going on in the country, don't feel like they can get ahead, don't feel like, feels like the system is against you. Right. So your celebration of independence looks a little different. But in the case of Black Americans, we know we weren't free when they declared this. And certainly, 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, we have our, Independence Day. Right. And the president tweets out, we got too many paid holidays. We got too many holidays off in this country. We got to do something about this on our Independence Day. So you are not going to catch me waving no American flag. No. And I think that's the consensus around the country. And if you are, hey, look, like I said, if you're somebody Black, and hey, we love this country, we are not the same. Just want to let you know that. So they are not like us. They are not like
great and a great K-Dot.
Great poet.
Yes. The poet laureate. K-Dot.
Absolutely. But that was a perfect way to kick off the show this week with that speech.
Absolutely. And we, shout out to the late great Frederick Douglass. He was definitely spitting the bar. I want to see maybe get Kendrick to put that to music because that's a bar. But I'm just going to be honest with y'all. It's harder and harder to put, as my brothers spoke earlier, it's harder and harder to put, find a silver lining here. To put a bow on this is difficult, frankly. This big, beautiful bill, so-called, I'm calling it the reverse Robin Hood bill, because this is, if look it up, you'll find it anywhere. This is the biggest wealth transfer ever in the United States history, where you're literally stealing from the poor to give it to the rich. Just your quick thoughts. I mean, I don't even know how far to get into this. We talked about like nearly 12 million people getting kicked off, or will eventually over the next 10 years getting kicked off Medicare. In increasing the national debt by nearly $4 trillion. I've called it an immoral bill in the past when we've talked about it in the past, but now we see the final version of it. Our lawmakers in Washington, D.C. sold out the people. And if you look specifically at the state of Alaska, Senator Murkowski, I believe, who had been positioned as one of the holdouts, made a backroom deal to exempt Alaska from the most egregious parts of this bill, but yet the rest of the country will have to bear up under this because she sold out the rest of the country to get a backyard deal for Alaska. This is Let me hear the good news. Let me hear the good news, brother. Break it down for me. I know I depend on you for that sort of thing.
Well, the good news is, for those who have been following, if you haven't been following, our job is to catch you up on what the heck's been happening. The big beautiful bill, as President Trump calls it, the one big beautiful bill, went from being something that Elon Musk, even his partner, even criticized as running up the deficit, running up the debt, adding to the deficit, As far as the annual deficit budget is going to go crazy, which is why they needed to get the debt ceiling increased to be able to spend more money. Right. And then he's like, well, you brought me in to reduce spending. And so that's where the whole Elon Trump feud came from, was the fact that Elon doesn't like the fact you're about to add approximately almost $4 trillion to the debt. And he didn't necessarily criticize what was in the bill. He criticized, the spending of that much money.
Right.
So, it passes through Congress. We begin, and what we're not going to do right here is we're not going to reiterate what you've been hearing all week. Curtis, you and I talked a couple minutes ago. You've been hearing we've never seen a push this large from politicians, from political commentators, from content creators. We've never seen people pushing this hard to educate us on what was about to happen. Everywhere, whether you were on Twitter, whether you were on TikTok, Instagram, it didn't matter. You were hearing about this bill, and you were hearing about what was in it. And what was the biggest things that you kept hearing was Medicaid cuts. Millions of people are going to lose their health care. SNAP, those of you who we used to call them food stamps, those family first cards, family first cards. We don't even know how much that's going to be reduced. Now, again, scary things for people who, people are educated. I just watched the video last night, and this guy is talking and like, well, they'll tell you all day long the reason why we should cut this is because people are burdening the system who shouldn't be getting it. And he's sitting next to his mother who worked for 30 years, and then she got cancer. Wow. And when she got cancer, she needed Medicaid to cover a portion of her expenses because she would have lost it all. And thank God he's like, listen, our kids, we, me and our brothers, we take care of her. But without Medicaid, it would be crippling everything in her life. She would have lost everything. So this isn't a person who just decided we didn't want to work one day. Right. It's, you wake up, you get disabled on your job, you get, you have a real life situation and you need this. That's about to go away. So this is what you've been hearing. So me and Curtis don't need to spend the next, 20, 30 minutes telling you what's in this bill. I
don't want to be depressed like that. Frankly, no, I don't even want to get into
it. It's been depressed. It was hopeful all week, although it seems like, it seems like there was the Republicans who voted for it. The majority of didn't we have 3 Republicans that didn't vote for it in the Senate? 3, I think. Was it 3? Well, Rand
the
Paul.
Vice President had to break the tie. So, yeah,
right.
I think there was 3 that did not vote for it.
Republicans who didn't vote, who were against the bill, You had Rand Paul,
and Tillis. I think the guy who said he was gonna actually gonna resign from North Carolina, and I think there was one other one.
Yeah, history's gonna remember these names. So the reason why we're telling you these things is just so you can be aware. It's not gonna really matter, but just some form of resistance here. But once it passed through the Senate, the last step was it had to get through the House. The House needed to vote. That's the lower chamber of Congress, and they needed to vote. And President Trump said he wanted it done before the 4th of July, and they made sure that it got done before the 4th of July. And
I expect he's going to make a big production today and probably sign that bill into law today sometime.
Yep, I agree with you. That so there's a reason I got on my Exodus hat, because Curtis, I don't really know, brother, what the silver lining is other than you should be preparing to leave the country. That may sound extreme. What we're witnessing is extreme. What we are witnessing is a takeover. That's what we're witnessing. And it's a breakdown of the democratic systems. It's a proving that they could be broken. That's what we're seeing. We are, the democratic experiment of running a country for the people, by the people, was just that, an experiment. Right. And democracy, as you've been hearing over the last couple months, is only as good or strong as the people who are willing to protect it. Stand up for it, fight for it.
Yep.
And we are seeing the breakdown of every democratic system that was put in place. We are seeing things that are clearly against the Constitution, the changing of laws and the changing of times. And I don't and I just want to get this off, and then that'll be probably my main statement on this whole thing, guys, is when this much can happen in 5 months, you got to look at, we talked about last week, where will we be at midterms? Where will we still have another year and a half before we can even vote anyone else in? And Curtis and I are going to bring up something that happened again this week. Good to see you, Music Share, Cyber Lady. What we're going to bring up how in Miami they did something that is absolutely should be alarming with the way they ran their election. And so I think we have to consider, Curtis, that we may have a constitutional crisis. We already do, but
we already have one. Yeah.
If we don't end up having elections next November, then we're seeing, that's probably, if we don't see civil war before then, that's when we're definitely going to see civil war. If this government does anything. So that's just my general statement. That's what I mean. What are you feeling? What are you feeling? You've been watching this develop. We've been talking about this. Where are you at concerning this bill?
Well, it is disconcerting, certainly. I just was thinking while you were talking, I don't think it's hyperbolic to say that there is a real possibility. So today is the 249th birthday of this country. There is a real possibility that we don't see 250. And I don't think I'm exaggerating in that, because, and we hit on this a little bit last week, I believe, because the amount of destruction that's been done in the first 6 months of this administration, double it up in another 6 months, who can even imagine where we would be? And I don't think anybody would have thought we'd be at this place now. Even those who had the worst case scenario in their mind about this administration, I don't think they could have in their wildest imaginations have seen us being where we are just 6 months in. So, to your point, we're only as strong as the people who are put in place, that we put into these positions to kind of hold the line, hold the door, to hold door.
Hold door. Game of Thrones
reference.
Shout out to Game of Thrones. Hold door.
Yeah, Hodor is gone.
He did a great job. Until daggone Brand.
Yeah, well, that's a whole different.
Why did
Although
Brand
I'd much
get
rather
as much
discuss that than a lot of the stuff that's going on now? But
what we're seeing in America is equally as disappointing as the season 8 of Game of Thrones. The last episodes, where Bran, who's been annoying us the whole daggone series, becomes the king, and he's gotten all these people killed. But and we didn't even discuss. I mean, how do you feel now? Just so Anita, welcome. Good to see you always. Welcome to the co-host watching. And again, tell us how y'all feel about this. We are very interested in your thoughts. We didn't even discuss the budget for ICE now.
So, the budget went up significantly.
It looks like they tripled. It was around 30 billion.
I think it went to like nearly 50 billion or something, didn't it?
Over 100.
Oh, really? That far? Okay.
Yeah. Over 100. Let's we'll get the exact numbers, but we now have just so you guys understand, in perspective, the ICE budget would now make us the 16th. It makes ICE the 16th largest military defense spending institution in the world.
Wow.
The budget in ICE, this secret police that we see walking around with masks, that many people are calling the ICE Gestapo. And if you don't know, the Gestapo was the Nazi secret police.
Right.
So
that's brown shirts, they call them.
right. These are now, they are now funded and have as much funding. If you took the worldwide, every country, they would be the 16th. They would spend this. They would be the 16th most heavily funded military in the world. ICE.
That is crazy. That is crazy. And Anita, thanks for your comment here. No one should be surprised that the Republicans fell in lockstep with their Hitler. Look at Alligator Auschwitz. I love the alliteration there. Yeah, we're going to get into that too. This Alligator Alcatraz, so-called, that just opened this week down in Florida. That's crazy. That that they just like, oh my goodness. Anyway, I'm sorry. This is just depressing to me to even have to discuss here in America, because there's no way that we should be having these sort of conversations, but yet here we are. Here we are. Our president, well, I don't like to claim that, but the president of these United States has once again been flapping the lips and talking about deporting people. Yes, and deporting American citizens. So he's, this kind of second and third story here. He actually started it talking about Elon Musk, because the on and off love story between Elon and Trump was off again this week, as he again was speaking out against the big bill. Elon, meaning he was speaking out against the big bill. And yeah, of course, Trump never likes anybody to speak out against anything. So they've been talking again about maybe deporting Elon. Steve Bannon had brought that up in the past, potentially getting rid of Musk, because there has been talk all along that he came here illegally. In fact, if you go and listen to some of the podcasts with him and his brother, they actually stated on the air that that they came here. Their parents brought them here illegally. So, I mean, seeing what's going on, you would just think that he's just talking, but that's what they've said about Trump all along. Oh, he's just talking. The supporters, he's just talking. And then, now we see, no, he wasn't just talking. He's actually doing all these things that he said that he was talking about. So he's talking about deporting people again, American citizens even. They got the Supreme Court weighed in and said that the people that they were sending to South Sudan, that they could go ahead and send them, even though they're not from the South Sudan. These are people from a third-party country. And they had gotten put on a plane. The judge said, no, you can't do it. So I found out this just a day or so ago that they didn't bring them back. What they did is they took a detour to Djibouti and like put these people in makeshift camps, concentration camps.
Yeah, let's put it out.
That's the only thing you can
call it what it is.
And so now that the Supreme Court has said they can go ahead and ship them out, I presume they'll probably be taking off for South Sudan any day now, if they haven't already, and dropping these people off in a country that they are not from, where they could be in danger. And the wheels have fallen off. Everything that I've thought about and with regard to this country, the wheels are off completely.
Well, when we look at Hitler, Hitler didn't necessarily have Hitler was taking over countries, but he didn't have kind of the world at his, he wasn't making deals with foreign governments to hold people from Germany. Right. And so what we're seeing is such a massive scale. It's like you got one man who can kind of use trade to make deals, whatever deal he wants, because if we're threatening to cut you off from trade doing business, whether it be we're not going to send you stuff or we're not going to allow your stuff in, we can cripple your country.
Right.
So Germany didn't have that type of leverage over other countries. Whereas President Trump decides he wants to hop on, he wants to now create all of these foreign detention camps, concentration camps, and he can go in and say, hey, it's two ways. You know, it's well, let's go back maybe 6 months when he first started talking about Canada, and they asked him, would you use military force? And he said economic force first. And we never really heard somebody, well, maybe they have, but I mean, on the mainstream, Curtis, do you remember any leader that, you know, mentioned economic warfare? Like, but not only do I have the biggest military in the world, but I also have the biggest consumer base in the world, and we feed everybody, and that could be we feed you by giving you stuff or we buy your stuff. So now we go in and we got countries that are offering to hold people no due process, just ship them here. We got a place for them. We'll find a place for them. And like you said, they end up in these countries, South Sudan, and you don't even know. I mean, picture this. You end up in South Sudan. You're trying, hey, call me a lawyer. Listen, we saw a little bit with El Salvador.
Right.
And how they treated what was the young man's name?
Abrego
Garcia.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Where, you know, the senator flew in there and said, hey, I want to see him. They said, you better go back and get a warrant. Or you better go and bring us some paperwork.
Something.
So again, guys, this should be alarming. And it should be only two options that you should even be thinking about. Realistically, I'm either going to prepare for the midterm elections, knowing that we might have some issues there. I saw somebody yesterday that said his biggest worry with the midterm elections was the fact that it's a couple ways President Trump can go with this. But Curtis, what if they decide he wants to challenge it in court? What if anybody who loses the election, you know, the Senate outseats the House? What happens if he decides to do what he did in 2020 and tie it up? And let's just tie up this in the legal instance. Like, let's challenge the elections and let's
That's what I mean. The wheels are off. He's got the Supreme Court that's falling into line now, starting to rule more and more in his favor. Congress has proven just last night with the passing of the big BS bill that they are willing to sell out the majority of Americans for the wealth of a few. And I think there was a great comment that I believe Anita made here about 813 billionaires in the country. And so 813 I have more friends than that on Facebook, right? 813 folks, billionaires in this country. I wonder how they're feeling today. Because listen, if you're a billionaire and the president passes this big bill, and we'll assume he'll sign it into law sometime in the next day or two, that's going to give you another 30 or 40 million dollars a year. Does that even register with you? Do you even care? Does it matter if you get an extra $40 million if you're already a billionaire? Just think about it. If we take $500 million from you, if you're a billionaire, just take it in taxation. $500 million from you, you won't even miss it. You're still a 500 millionaire. 500
won't know it's gone.
You won't miss it. You're not moving anything. You're not selling any property. You're making zero adjustments in your life. You know, you're still flying the private jet. You're still doing all of those things. So it is so morally depraved, in my opinion, that this country and its leadership signed off on this massive wealth transfer, literally stealing from the poor to give to the rich. And that just shows us where our priorities are in this country. And it's a sad day. It's tough for me to not be sad, I harken back to a quote from James Baldwin, I believe. It's hard for a conscious, and I'm paraphrasing. It's hard for a conscious black man in America to not be angry every day. And that's kind of the way I'm feeling about, because once you understand what's happening with all this stuff, you know that it's designed to build up the rich and basically screw the poor. And, you know, I hate to be crass with the way of saying it, but that's what this is.
Listen, we ain't got no time today to be all, look, y'all, you got to forgive us today.
Yeah,
we ain't got time to clean stuff up and be, let's just make this, let's package it nice. No, all hell is breaking loose. And we need to be, it's the only way we can say it. It's the only way we can say it. We just watched billionaires create new laws that only benefit them.
Absolutely.
We got a couple things, tax on tips and all of this stuff. You look at the qualifications of that. Look at the fine print. I'm from the car business. People used to come in, why the heck did y'all said $299 a month? Did you read the fine print? That's not what, now that's not my way. And people who know me as Deshaun the Auto Advisor, you know that's why I'm against the auto industry, and that's why I created that brand. But the fine print is what gets you. You got to look at, they said no tax on tip, no tax on overtime. Up to this amount. Up until that, you know, so I'm almost speechless that the minority, as you perfectly called it, the reverse Robin Hood. I love that, because, you know, Robin Hood's thing, guys, was that we're going to take from the rich and give to the poor.
Right.
That this is the exact opposite. We saw the minority win. That should tell us right there something's wrong with the democratic systems. If we saw 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, millions of people in the streets for the No Kings March, millions. We've never seen this since Black Lives Matter. Millions of people. And then we saw social media pushing millions of people to understand what was about to happen. And it still happened. That, in my opinion, is the minority winning in a democracy, because they have money. Any other way that we see this, Curtis?
Not at all. Not at all. Speaking of money, Anita, how was the Bezos wedding? I presume you were invited. Anita, were you invited to the Bezos wedding? Was it nice? You know, did they have a nice registry that you could sign up for to give them a nice gift or something? No, I wasn't invited to the Bezos wedding. She says Oprah was there. So Oprah and I probably aren't going to be in the same.
She said, I read that there are only 813 American billionaires, so we're succumbing to 800. Look, even my mind is like, it has to be at least 1,800 of them. No, 813 folks. Notice the silence from wealthy celebrities. Curtis, what were we talking about before the show? Look at our black celebrities. Look at our black, and what I brought up was Shannon Sharp. I love Shannon Sharp. All of these people that I follow, we've been cheering them on for a long time.
Right.
Y'all know one thing about us with black celebrities, we champion our people because we know we only got a few of them, and we know it ain't gonna be long before they tear you down. So enjoy.
They're coming for you.
They're coming for you. You'll be in jail before we die. So we're gonna champion our black celebrities, but here's what we are not seeing. Nobody stand. I mean, I'm not gonna say nobody, because maybe y'all co-hosts let us know. Are you seeing anyone who is not business as usual? Hey, we're just going to do another interview. We got TK Kirkland on this week. Last week we had John Cena. Like, what? The country's burning around you. You are one of the biggest platforms in black culture, and you just going to act like you don't see it? You're going to now. Let me ask you a question, Curtis. Do we think that because they got the big houses, the big bank accounts, I don't see it? Like when we heard our boy Lil Wayne say, wait, what, racism? I don't know no racism. I'm a black millionaire in America.
Listen, they, to a certain extent, the wealthy are sort of impervious to the pain that is being inflicted on Americans. And of course, that's by design. That is by design. So, but to your other point is it's just a matter of time before they decide, or whomever the powers that be decide, how long you get to keep that status. Because just as quickly as you can make that money, they can take it away from you. And we're seeing that. I don't necessarily want to get into this now, but we keep going into it. But you see the rise and fall of P. Diddy. And we might as well switch gears and talk about that now. But you see that his trial just came to an end, story 13 and 14 there. So, we all know Diddy, the Harlem Shake Diddy, that dude.
All in the videos?
All in the videos.
Take that.
And, listen, he's a great producer for what he does. That doesn't make him a good person. So a jury of his peers this week decided to actually do a split verdict where he was acquitted of the most serious crimes, which would have been racketeering. He was, however, convicted of 2 counts, which included basically flying sex workers over state lines for the purpose of prostitution. And I guess that left a possibility of a 10-year sentence. So, all the people that were outside of the court, yelling and screaming and cheering and pouring baby oil over themselves, I gotta wonder, if maybe there's a better use of your energy. But thoughts about did you anoint yourself with baby oil in honor of P. Diddy's acquittal on the most serious charges?
This man, look, I got 2 daughters, and I know you do too. Indeed. And when we look at what this man did to Cassie, they crucified Chris Brown.
True.
He's still trying to get over what happened with him and Rihanna. And Rihanna is like, "Hey, we cool now, guys. Y'all could chill out on him." Like, they like, "Nah, we saw those pictures." So if a picture's worth 1,000 words, what's a video in a hotel hallway worth?
Listen, that video is so graphic. They were not really, the prosecution is said to not have done a great job. And obvious, if you see that video and the prosecution fails to make the case, it seems like they overreached a little bit, trying to, maybe hang more on this person than they actually should have. So, Diddy, the judge his team had asked for him to be released on bail until the sentencing. And the judge was like, "Nah, bro, you are a violent threat to society," essentially, is what he said. And when you think about that Cassie video, you can see where it's coming from. I mean, the man, if you're going to do that to someone that you supposedly are in love with, in a relationship with, then shoot, the rest of the world is is fair game. But anyway, so all of y'all that were wishing for Diddy to get out of jail, he probably will in about, I'd give him 5-6 years. I if I had to guess, I think he probably ends up doing about 6 years, or at least sentenced to 6 years. Any thoughts and prayers on the Diddy trial?
Well, I'm not praying for 5 or 6 years. And to your point, I think there was an overreach. I think about this joke that Dave Chappelle said. He said, "Man, this guy Diddy he's in some serious trouble. They got him in a RICO case by himself." And the crowd bust out laughing because when you think about a RICO case, you're running a criminal enterprise.
Right.
There's typically so many other people that are involved. Well, look at the Young Thug trial. How many people
exactly,
were culpable? And it's like, we ain't seen nobody but Diddy and witnesses against him. So I didn't see how, and you heard the talk as it went on. How are we going to prove this guy's running a criminal enterprise? Yes, domestic. Yeah, he's an abuser. He's made some terroristic threats, blew up a car. But
allegedly,
is he allegedly is he running a criminal enterprise? And that's the part that I think, as the case went on, we started to see that's going to be hard for them to prove. I thought, shout out to the late great Tupac and Biggie, that they was going to somehow, because all the Gene, remember the bodyguard Gene? Y'all was watching the interviews. The bodyguard Gene, he's talking like they're paying him. Just talk. Hey, here's some money. Right. Keep talking. So all of this stuff's coming out before Diddy even gets jammed up with Cassie. Hey, they pay. He cut $100,000 check. All of a sudden, the guy who unalived Tupac, he's talking now, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, we never got the money." Ooh. So okay, there was $100,000 that was supposed to come to him, and then we have at the same time we have $100,000 check that was written to a gentleman from P. Diddy. I'm like, okay, they got to be able to connect these dots, and sure enough, it never came out. So.
He pulled the Trump on him. He ain't pay him.
Teflon Diddy. What? Oh, you talking about it? Not paying? Okay.
Diddy paid it. He pulled the Trump on him.
He pulled the Trump.
Yeah.
Hey, sue me.
Yeah.
Sue me for conspiracy to commit murder, not paying you for conspiracy to commit murder.
Listen.
But in seriousness, it says he's facing 10 years on each count. He's convicted of 2 counts of, like you said, bringing people across state lines for prostitution. One of the legal commentators that was talking with Stephen A. said, because it's a similar charge, they're probably going to run concurrently. And he said that depending on how the sentencing looks, sentencing is what? October, Curtis? September?
The judge said October 3rd, I believe, but he was willing to move it up if the defense wanted him to.
Okay. Well, we'll be reporting on the sentence, because even the legal commentator said, I see, they might give a straight miscarriage of justice, and the victims are absolutely pissed off, would be, time served. Right. But even he said, look, he might walk away with 2 years. Like he might. So we will see again how the justice system treats a rich man who has more connections than most black people have. Maybe more dirt on some white people than black people have.
Yeah, there might have been a few people in those freak offs that are influential. You never know.
On those videotapes, dude, the prosecution might be, hey, wait a minute, that's me. Listen. So
my boss is on here, maybe, potentially, allegedly. Who knows?
So we will see. Anita said whole trial was a waste of tax dollars. Agreed. Why did he have to transport prostitutes when there are prostitutes in every state?
Listen, there are prostitutes, and then there are prostitutes. So, when you think of places like LA and Las Vegas, those are high class sex workers, allegedly.
They're too old, Curtis. They're too old. They're in their mid-20s.
Listen, I'm sure there's plenty of 17-year-olds out there as well. But listen, you like what you like, right, Anita? So, if you have your own preferences, you might fly them in. You got the money. Money ain't a thing. Boom, boom. So if the money ain't a thing, why not fly in what you like from these exotic places? So I agree it was a waste of taxpayer dollars, but nobody cares about that anymore. We see the president wasting taxpayer dollars, golfing every other day or however often he's golfing. That's costing us money. Nobody seems to care about that. So, I don't know that I care that they spent money to try and get Diddy, and they shot at the king and missed a little bit. I mean, kind of. That's good news, bad news. He was all celebratory, thinking he was going home after the trial, and the judge was like, "Nah, player, you know, nah, you're gonna be here for a little bit more. We gonna keep your accommodations open for a while longer."
And he's dancing. I feel he's dancing because to beat the RICO charge. Again, I think his lawyer's telling him you're not going to do a lot of time, and
probably.
And he can probably come out in a couple years and go back to, signing artists and not paying them, like making sure they die broke,
Listen, Cyber Lady's question here or comment was that she alluded to there being bigger fish to fry. To me, if Diddy is turning some sort of state's evidence or something, he's got the worst legal team ever, because if you're snitching and you still doing jail time, something ain't right. I mean, you listen, you need to have more leverage than that. If you're going to snitch and still end up going to jail, you might as well just kept your mouth shut, because that's not going to work.
Look, the opposite is true. Look at who testified. Kid Cudi comes out, he blew up my car. So now to see him not even get the jail time or limited jail time is like, what the heck did I? Because I don't even.
Kid Cudi better get somebody else to start his cars from now on.
That's the whole point.
Yep.
I done came out the woodwork. Y'all done got me to testify against this in a Fed case, because like Cyber Lady said, to beat a Fed case, we already know the Feds, what are their conviction rate? 99%.
I know, right? If they come for you, they don't usually miss.
They don't miss.
Not normally miss.
They don't miss. So, again, miscarriage of justice. Look. This is we're watching a circus. So why wouldn't we expect clown behavior? So,
speaking of clown behavior, story 4 today on our call sheet is about Alligator Alcatraz. And I believe one of our co-hosts called it Alligator Auschwitz earlier today. This is, for me, it's just so ridiculous. It's another one that I don't know if I want to spend a lot of time talking about. But this week, the president opened Alligator Alcatraz. And this is a place in Florida where they are going to, apparently they've already started shipping people that are scheduled to be deported, I guess, and bringing them down to this place in Florida. So I wonder why they didn't just do this in the beginning, rather than playing these games with South Sudan and El Salvador or San Salvador. Why didn't they just find a place in Florida or maybe even somewhere out in Arizona and build our own detention center? And apparently somebody got the memo and they decided to do this. So Alligator Alcatraz, you know what? Let me get your thoughts on that first before I unload the other clip.
Just a little bit about for our co-hosts watching who may not be familiar. The facility nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz is a heavily secure wildlife sanctuary in Florida, known for housing aggressive or nuisance alligators that cannot safely be released into the wild. So I'll leave that there for a second. Let's let that marinate. And it's located in Florida, often managed by or partnered with wildlife authorities, houses hundreds of alligators captured from residential areas, golf courses, or after attacks. It's one entrance in. We're doing a good job of staying upbeat, if you're listening, you're like, when I hear from Curtis and Deshaun, things just don't sound as negative as they are. But how do we
shine this pig up?
They're walking through there laughing. You're seeing people tweeting and saying, hey, forget the horrible woman who tweeted alligator lives matter. And if we start today, we can actually provide 65 million meals for them or something like that. So not only are you talking about,
I completely missed that. Oh my goodness.
not only are we talking about housing,
Oh
people there with no due process, you're not going to be satisfied until one person gets eaten. And to Anita's point, she said, I want to bring that comment back up. Wait till Alligator Auschwitz pay-per-view eating the immigrants happens.
Wow.
This goes back, guys, to when there were people tweeting a couple months ago, where can we start live streaming deportations?
We talked about this.
We talked about this on the show. And you might think, there's no way, y'all, that they said this stuff. There's no reason for hyperbole. The real stuff is entertaining. The real stuff is serious is enough. We don't need to hype anything up. So this is what we have here. We have a concentration camp surrounded by alligators, a moat of alligators, that we're going to be holding people in. And how do you guys feel about that?
I just want to bring this up because this is just an example of how things hit differently if your experiences are different, which is the whole idea behind this whole DEI attacks and things like that. Is just the fact of the matter is the whole idea behind diversity, equity, inclusion is that we have different experiences and we experience this life differently based on those experiences. The thing that I think of when I'm thinking about Alligator Alcatraz, I think back to those times and those stories during the times of enslavement and shortly after, when they were feeding black babies to alligators. This is, these are things that have been documented.
Absolutely.
Where they play games with black children, holding them over the alligator. You've probably seen the postcards or some sort of graphics that illustrate this sort of thing. And, the kind of heinous behavior that supposedly humans, did to other humans. And I think back to that because when you're talking about people tweeting about, alligator meals and things like that, the depths of depravity that would make somebody even think in those terms is horrid. And, how can anybody claim to be human or in favor of humanity when you can really actively wish for alligators to attack and harm human life? So,
I can't watch movies like Men in Black the same anymore. I think it's Kurt, these really could be people in human suits. When you just said, how could humans do this? And then you look at some of these people, look close. Don't look too close at them because you're going to see, first of all, your face is very shiny. Why are your faces so shiny all the time? Some of those human suits, like you need to.
Suits is diabolical.
Yo, music share, you understand? Music share. Let's be for real. You look too close. First of all, we already know sometimes when it rains, y'all smell different. Let's not even act like.
Stop.
Let's not act like.
My goodness.
And that's not all. Listen, there's a group of white people that we know are very well cleansed, showered, and they be looking at people like, wait, hold on, y'all don't shower, y'all don't season y'all food. These, and then they got a couple of us. It's a couple of us. No way Tim Scott looks human.
Stop.
All right. I'm sorry.
Stop. I cannot.
I'm sorry.
You got me here sweating and oh my goodness. And I thought this was going to be one of those subdued shows. And this is one of those times where we laughing because we can't, you got to laugh to keep from crying.
Keep from crying.
This is hilarious.
Right.
Anyway.
Look. So that's how you look underneath. Some of y'all, like, this is how these are straight reptiles, and it's not even like they have good quality human suits. All of them look like they have suits on. All of them.
Oh my goodness.
Pull up anybody that is look like you voted for this. Pull them up.
Goodness.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, she don't look normal. Jasmine was the first one to call her out. You're built weird. Yeah, you don't have a normal body build. Like,
yeah.
Right,
that is true.
That's all I got.
I think we have devolved into something here that I had not planned, but listen, it is what it is. So
Pamela said, look, Curtis, and look, and yes, they do have a horrible smell when wet. It's like that's the tag that comes on the suit. It's like you know when you
smelly when wet, smelly when wet, not slippery when wet, smelly when wet. Okay.
You get the clothes do not dry. Like that's what comes on the suit.
Oh my goodness.
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I can listen. Okay. We're gonna try and get this back on the rails at this point because we went a little bit off there for a moment, but we're back. We're back now.
Sorry. My gun is blazing. Listen. My clip is full.
Last week we did see though the Trump administration in the White House with representatives from the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda. And they were signing this epic, is the only way to really describe it, epic peace deal. If you don't know, Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have been going at each other at war for like 30 years. They've been going at it for a while. Reportedly, the most people have died in that skirmish or that war between those two countries then that's the most since World War II, if I have that correctly. So it was a great, it was a nice pictorial, and of course the president couldn't resist himself flirting with the the audience, the young lady who was a journalist who was there.
Yep.
An African journalist. He was flirting hard with them. But so they signed this peace deal between the two. And of course, Trump, bigging up himself for doing something that nobody else had done. But first of all, let's just start there. What did you think about the peace accord signed between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo?
I'm happy for them. I could only, until more details come out, could only hope that this leads to, a stabilization of what you said, which is, this has been the deadliest war since World War II. I believe over 30 years and over 6 million deaths. So what one of the gentlemen said, which I believe he was the leader of Rwanda, was we just need to make sure that it's implemented. We need to make sure, that, everyone now is focused on the implementation of the deal. And what President Trump said is he's depending on them to, keep peace. And again, if you listen to this interview that's playing, it's, public, you'll hear him say that he used trade to get the deal done. So again, going back to what we talked about a half hour ago, which was, economic warfare. When you come into a nation and you decide you want to, swing the guns and say, hey, if y'all want to do business with America, y'all need to keep this peace. And they said, okay, let's do it. So I don't know what it looks like. Obviously, America gets something out the deal. Most likely, we're going to see them getting minerals that we've all heard for the last umpteen years how heavily rich in natural resources the Democratic Republic of Congo is, and probably Rwanda as well. So, but my hope is just for the people that it does lead to lasting peace, because what we're going to see is the deals that President Trump makes with other countries are going to look way better than what we are seeing here within our country. So think about a guy who, you know, goes all over the place. He's loved because, you know, he comes in and he gets things done, and he's doing business with people that never really could get a meeting, never really could get stability. Like, he's coming into town and saying, look, I got y'all. Nobody ever talked to y'all. Come on, Syria. Let's talk. All right, boom, boom, boom. But he comes home and his house is a mess.
Right.
So this guy's everywhere. He's getting peace prizes. He comes home and everybody, his whole family is like, hey, we hate you. You know, not, you know, that's a strong word, but a good portion. And I think that's what we're going to see. And you can't deny that if these peace agreements, that if some of these new deals that President Trump is making with these foreign governments go well in the short term, he's going to be extremely popular globally, despite what a percentage of people in the United States think about him. What do you think?
So yeah, I can't help but think that we always often talk about context and things like that. So this man who's sitting in the seat of the presidency in America decides to sit down with two African nations and negotiate peace. What is his motivation for that? What is he getting out of it? Because clearly, this man who wrote The Art of the Deal, who is actively trying to make deals with anybody who will sit down and talk to him, what is the deal that was made here? He wasn't pursuing peace for some sort of altruistic reasons. He wasn't doing it because he was concerned about the 6 million black people who had been killed over the last 30 years in this escalation of war. So what was his reasoning for doing this? And then, you know, as I looked into it a little bit more, we find out that there's the mineral deals that are coming. And the thing that concerns me is this, because we talk a lot about Mali and Niger and Burkina Faso, and the way that they are going about things in that part of the continent, where they are actually kicking out the Western powers and going it alone, focusing more introspectively on their own people and really excluding and keeping the West out to a large degree. And yet here we see in Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo almost the exact opposite. Now, granted, there were a lot of lives lost, and maybe somebody did need to step in order to bring peace, but have they kind of sold their souls is the question, I guess, that needs to be asked. And that's really me pondering that in my own mind. And I don't know that I even have an answer for that, but it is something that's going through my mind. So what are your thoughts on that piece?
Well, I think nobody does something for nothing. You know, right. When you look at China's Belt and Roadway project, you know, China's making several deals throughout the world that are going to position them as, you know, the leader in economy. But like they made a deal in Jamaica. They're building roads in Jamaica, and it's allowing better trade, and it's allowing these countries to flow cleaner and better. And even within their own borders, they're able to have better infrastructure. But the thing I'm always concerned with is what's the terms of the deal. Right. And when we look at what China did, China is like this deal in Jamaica. They said, okay, we'll build the roads. We'll put the roads together. Just give us the toll revenue for the first 50 years. After that, it's you guys. So if we can build roads all through the world and create this global infrastructure where our products can get in, get out, you can get products to us better, we'll make enough money over the course of that 50 years in tolls to cover the expenses initially, or some of them. And then in the long run, we're going to sell more products, and, you know, and again, we'll be able to do better trade. But we're not exploiting you. We're not coming in saying, like what we've seen in the Western world is we own the rights, the mineral rights to to this mine here. No one else can come mine here for this cobalt but us.
Right.
We're not paying you fair market value. We're not allowing you to bid it out and actually, if we don't want to pay you market value, you could sell it to someone else. We are now in control, and that's been the West. That's been the West. So I'm very interested in what the terms of these deals are going to look like, because again, if we're making deals and we get mineral rights from your country, that's one thing. If we take your economy because we can't figure out, and what we've seen the war, and it's like, so we've seen what the United States has labeled, oh, we got to get in here because this country's not stable. And next thing you know, the United States is done with the deal, or we look 5 years later and the country's wishing they could go back to where they were.
Exactly.
Like, we didn't realize it wasn't perfect. We had problems, but so I think we're gonna follow this. We'll follow, if any of you have terms of what these mineral deals look like, what this Rwanda Democratic Republic of Congo deal looks like. Certainly share them with us. But we hope that this leads to lasting change. And if they don't, if they're smart, and if Trump is smart, what he will be trying to do is make deals that are mutually beneficial so that all of these countries love him in the long term. There's enough for everybody to eat without exploitation. But we know we're talking about people who listen, if there's 8 steaks and a person's hungry, I'm gonna keep all 8 steaks. So you figure out how you're gonna eat. So again,
listen, I'm gonna eat 7 of them, and y'all split that last one. Y'all split. Wait, let me just take a piece off the corner, and then y'all
of the last one.
Yeah, that's off that last one.
Right.
So I'm gonna get 7 and plus, and y'all can split the scraps of that last one.
Right. And it's the smallest one out of the 8.
That's the smallest one. That's all you get.
But we wish the guys in the Republic, we wish the nation of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda the best, because they have tons of potential. And I think when we're looking at Ibrahim Traore and what's happening in Mali and Niger, the 3 presidents that are really showing all of the world what a nation in Africa can be when they have control of their resources and they make really great deals. Right. I think the DRC and Rwanda, why would you make a deal in the face of watching these 3 leaders make incredible deals and pull their countries out of poverty and oppression and imperialism? To make a deal that doesn't put you in a similar position would just be foolish. So we'll see what's on. We'll watch. That's all I got.
That's all we can do.
Anything you want to end on? Anything you want to end on with that?
No, that's a great way to end it. We got to watch and see how this turns out. We will wait and see. Absolutely, Pamela. Thank you for pointing that out. Want to get over, want to move through these stories today because it is a holiday, and you might have a cookout or something to get to today. So we want to get you in and out. But we talked a little about Elon earlier. I don't know if you noticed this week, the Tesla results came out, I guess, for the second quarter, and still not good. Still not good.
God is good.
Amen. All the time. So Tesla, just setting it up. Of course, Elon Musk and this whole Doge thing where he went in and got a bunch of information about Americans and wrecked a bunch of stuff and said they were doing a bunch of things, although they really weren't doing that many things. But his real business is running a business or several businesses. And one of them is Tesla. And that's really the biggest portion of his wealth, as I understand it, is Tesla. And what we were seeing over the first quarter, when he was actively engaged in decimating the American government here in a lot of ways, the response from the American public, we saw Tesla plants being protested, and eventually Tesla cars and showrooms being destroyed by fire and things of that nature. So the American people were very angry at Elon Musk and therefore Tesla. And he has seen a significant reduction year over year. I believe is Tesla's market numbers are down 13% year over year.
Yes.
Now, when you're billions and billions of dollar company, 13% is a lot of money. And, you know, shareholders can't be happy that, that this guy, regardless, you know, he's the rich guy and all that, but he's still beholden to his shareholders. And they can't be happy again this quarter, seeing what's going on. Yeah. So, I mean, I say that because I'm saddened. Psych. I'm not saddened.
This is what you call answered prayers. Keep praying, y'all. Some of the stuff is working.
This is a find out moment for old Elon. And I really think this is going to be significant. And because I was watching the news, and this is not just an American thing. In Europe, he was getting hit hard. Tesla was getting hit just as hard. Not the burning the cars, but they were not buying Teslas at all. And, you know, now we see the results of that are starting to hit in monetary terms. So back to our point earlier, he's still a billionaire. I mean, you know, he's just not as big of a billionaire as he was before. So, you know, I'm sad for Tesla and Elon. Sorry, not sorry. Any thoughts on that before we move on?
This is what I'm wondering, y'all. Help me out. Besides Tesla, okay? How does this guy's companies make money? Think about this. He has one company that fires off rockets like it's daggone Nerf guns. They're exploding.
Anywhere, they're going up in the smoke all over the place.
But follow me. With a company, you need to bring in money. Who's paying? Who's paying for that? That seems
us American people. We're paying $8 million a day
in subsidies.
Yes.
So now this is the point that I'm getting at. The Burrow Company, the Boring Company, drills into the ground. He's building tunnels underneath the ground. Now, besides Starlink is the, you know, for those of you who don't know, I think Elon Musk now has like what, over 6,000 satellites in the sky?
Something ridiculous like that.
How many, let's see. So, because some of you weren't aware that Elon is building a huge monitoring system. How many satellites does Elon have? Let's somebody tell us. Somebody pull that up, and one of our co-hosts, please tell us how many satellites does Starlink have in the sky that he's using to actually bring internet to people's, you know, other countries and our country. So those are two companies that I could see having some revenue coming in. But
7,875 satellites in orbit. As of June 26, 25, Starlink has approximately 7,875 satellites in orbit.
Now watch this. Thank you. Watch this. You have a guy who has at least half of his companies are government subsidized.
Right.
He's had hundreds of millions of dollars that he's gotten from the government. And when I look at Tesla and what you're doing, again, we talked about this a little while ago. When you align yourself with President Trump, it hurts your business dramatically. So is there a long game that these people are playing that we don't know about? And you know, you and I have our suspicions. I told y'all we're hedging in two ways. We're looking at what's happening, but then we're looking at what the prophecy says and what the books say, and it's like, hey, it's lining up to a T. Because why would you be building this many satellites, keeping it on the low where people don't even know, and then you're comfortable taking billions in losses in the short term? Why are you comfortable? You see people burning Teslas, it just seems like these guys know something or plotting something where they win in the long term. And I think that's going to be what. See, it's so weird that they called the Democrats the globalists. They called the Democrats the globalists. We're trying to build a new world order. Remember that? All through, who remembers this? Because this was the talk all through the last 10 years. Oh, the Democrats trying to build a new world order. They want to control the world. Globalists. They want social. They want a social. They want to bring socialism to the world and control the world. But what we're seeing is there's a small group of rich men. Look at the Morocco. Can you pull up the Abraham Accords billboard in Tel Aviv? Pull it up. You're gonna think this is, and you're gonna think, I don't even know if I shared this with you. Did you see this, Curtis?
I don't think so, no.
Take a look at this. Go on, pull up the Abraham Accords billboard in Tel Aviv, Israel. And I want y'all to take a real hard look at
I think I know what you're talking about now. Okay.
Look at what you're about to see and give him some time. He'll pull it up and, even, you can just Google it. Even anyone watching, what you're going to see is President Trump in the middle of a bunch of people from different countries, along with a few billionaires that we seem to see billionaires moving with Trump like they're, thank you. Look at this billboard. Look at this billboard. That's Jeff Bezos top left. If you don't see, that's Jeff Bezos top left. What is Jeff Bezos doing on a billboard in Tel Aviv, Israel, with President Trump at the center of it?
You think Trump was at the wedding? It was a legitimate question, man. Come on. Don't do me like that. Come on. You just put the poster with them up there. It's a legitimate question.
Why wouldn't he be? Why wouldn't he be? But
he bought him something nice, or he bought him something cheap?
Look, a cheap gift is probably, hey, I spent $10 million on your gift. The guy rented out a whole island.
I guarantee you he ain't spent $10 million on nothing. I guarantee you he did, other than himself.
Yeah. So this is the part. This is the part that worries me right here. Not even worries me. This is the part that fits into the scriptures. So I'm not going to spend any more time on this right now. But best believe, pull that up one more time. Pull that up one more time for us, Meraki. Look at that picture, y'all. I don't care if you're religious or not. I don't care if you're in the Bible or not. What does that picture remind you of? Type it into the chat. What does that picture remind you of? One person in the middle. You got how many people around them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You got 11 people around them. Judas ain't there. There's no Judas in this bunch.
There's a bunch of Judases in the bunch.
Oh, really? That's what I'm saying. It's, everybody's a Judas to them. So, all right, let me get off. Thank you, Brittany. The Last Supper. Thank you, Bonita. Last Supper, Cyber Lady. Last Supper. Looks just like it. And so, all right, go ahead, Curtis, because I thank you for letting me go on that run.
Listen,
that's the only answers that I have for you guys that make sense. Only answers that I could bring to you guys that what we're seeing happening is exactly what the scripture said would happen. And all right, go ahead. All right, we'll come back to that. Well, maybe we'll end on that. Go ahead.
Talking now, brother. But anyway, that's enough about Musk and then
reel me back in.
Yeah. But that okay. I had not thought about that picture in those terms. So, thank you for putting that image in my head that I can't get out now. Thank you. Appreciate that. But anyway, let's talk about the Cheddar Bay biscuits for a minute. Because,
yes, that
we're going to go from something bad to something good. Cheddar Bay biscuits.
Black excellence alert coming right now. This is a black excellence alert.
Listen.
Coming right now.
Now, Red Lobster. Listen, it's a black staple. I don't care. If you never been to Red Lobster after church on a Sunday or whenever you attend service, something's wrong with you. Because if you ain't waited outside for an hour trying to get into a Red Lobster on a Sunday, then I don't know. That your black card may be getting revoked there as well. But anyway, over the last several years, Red Lobster's had a hard time. They have been in bankruptcy. They've had all types of problems. It's actually come out over the years that they were basically defrauded. The owners were basically doing the old mob trick where they were getting all the money out of it, draining as much as they could out of the organization, doing something where they were selling shrimp to themselves and all types of underhanded things. But now there is a new sheriff in town. This gentleman, and I'm going to have to, his name, I would never be able to pronounce it, I don't think. But he's a black man who had run other companies, and now he's taken over the mantle of Red Lobster, and he's made some great changes. You see the commercials playing on TV now where he actually is doing commercials telling you what we're doing, and he shouts out the Cheddar Bay biscuits, of course, because they've always been good. Love me some Cheddar Bay biscuits.
Mm-hmm.
But what's his name? Damola Adamolican. I'm sorry if I'm, but 35-year-old CEO of Red Lobster, and he brings Red Lobster trying to bring Red Lobster out of bankruptcy and make some changes. Are you inclined to now go sit down? I can't remember the last time I've been in Red Lobster, all full transparency. But are you more inclined now? There's a brother at the head to go back and give Red Lobster a try now?
Listen, I don't even eat shellfish. I'm allergic to it, but I would need it. But I'm going to find something to order at Red Lobster.
Okay.
I'm rooting for everybody black.
All the time.
So that's just all I can say. I'm rooting for everybody black. Some of them ain't rooting for us. That's okay.
Listen,
but if our boy is transformed the company,
yes.
First, and let's be clear, we're seeing a lot of black culture running these social media. See, if you don't have a black person running your social media, we can tell.
It's obvious.
It's obvious. You're tweeting specials. No one cares. But you get some of that black culture behind your social media. Next thing you know, hey, we went viral. Yeah, we do this. We know how to engage in conversation. It's interesting. We know how to make things interesting. We know how to make things that are not even interesting. So this is a trend. This is a trend that we're seeing that quite honestly it always existed. They always had a black person. Don't think these recipes, and I don't want to make it. Look, we got some phenomenal people from all around every culture that can cook, but we know there's a history of us. I just had some famous Amos cookies 2 days ago.
Oh yeah.
For those of you who don't know the story of wildly famous Amos, go pull up an episode of Shark Tank. And you'll see that this man was on there trying to start another company. They're like, wait, hold on. Are you the famous Amos? He said, yeah.
That's me.
He said, so what happened? Well, I made a bad deal, So you mean to tell me all these famous Amos cookies I've been eating all my life, you ain't getting no money from them? So that's the history. We're going to sell. They're going to offer us money. And, so what we're seeing is that the playing field's a little more even. Things a little more out in the open now. So you can't make these same deals that we used to make, 30, 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But it does not change the fact that all of these corporations are saying, we need somebody who's with the culture. And this brother, I don't want to try to pronounce the name. We put it there in the chat. Again, I don't want to mispronounce the brother's name. But he is proving what we all know. Put us in position and then just get out our way. Just let us do what we do.
The Mola Adamolican. I think that's close. I think that's got to be close. The Mola Adamolican.
Curtis, you was like, I'm sitting there like, all right, I'm
sitting here staring at it.
I'm gonna go.
That's gotta be it.
All right, this is the Mola. All right,
I got it. That's it.
Right.
Don't matter. Y'all been calling Kamala Harris to buy out her name for years now, so it's okay. Anyway, shout out to Anita. Says my late father always treated me to the red for my birthday, and she still continues that tradition. And when she reads about it being a brother now running the show, it makes it all the more special. So yeah, let's support our folks that
let's
are out
drive.
there
Let's drive themselves
trying
up.
to do things. You know, if you don't have a barbecue to get to today, maybe you go sit in the AC and have some Red Lobster instead. Who knows?
Absolutely.
But
And Brittany Perrier said yes, based off his priorities. Yes, I'm going.
all right, Brittany, I'll be in it. Brittany, now see, Brittany is in a little different situation because Brittany lives in. I hope I'm not giving anything away here, but she lives in New Orleans.
Okay.
I'm not sure I'm going to Red Lobster to get seafood if I'm in New Orleans. I'm just going to put it out there. Listen, I can go to Acme and get me some good charbroiled oysters, or, you know, go get some crawdads and suck the heads and eat the tail. You know.
But it's only to support the brother. She's doing it to support.
Brothers down there too. They got brothers running seafood places in New Orleans. So if you are in any place other than New Orleans, there are plenty of Black-owned seafood establishments in New Orleans that you can go eat at other than Red Lobster. And I gotta imagine though, Red Lobster in New Orleans, which I've never been to, actually, just because of where you are, you got to be great, right? You got to make some additions to the menu if you're trying to do seafood in New Orleans under the banner of Red Lobster. You better bring it. That's all I know. They better have a little different recipe.
Some things are the locale, and it matters.
Absolutely.
You know, I was down at Curtis's house 2 weeks ago. Listen, and I'm not gonna announce the city, but there's a part of New Jersey where Domino's pizza tastes totally different. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
You know, a little further south, and we had some people, our whole team was down there, and we came from up north. We eat Domino's pizza. It was something, y'all crust was different. It was seasoned. The cheese was fresh. So anyway, don't get me. It was so good. We said we would get in the car and drive down there just to get Domino's pizza down there. So to the point, and we got some people who were with me. All right, listen. I told you.
Listen, I can't even say
don't
nothing
get me off of that.
Domino's pizza. Listen, when you know better, you do better. And I used to love Domino's when I was in college because I ain't had no money, and I was trying to get the cheapest meal. And some cardboard with some sauce and bread and melted cheese on it was good at that time. But now that I'm a little older, a little wiser,
up north.
I'm just messing with you.
That Domino's pizza that you got near you, and all right, let's go. And we got listen. I told you I'm going to try to go on multiple tangents to keep this lighthearted today because it was a lot of bad news today so far. But yeah, if you're in South Jersey, try the Domino's pizza and come back one day and tell me if that's not different. Because up here, you get a pizza and it's breadsticks.
Absolutely.
It's all right. So go ahead. That's
Domino's
ain't paying us. So
just go out and support our Nigerian-born brother who's running Red Lobster and former president or CEO of PF Chang's. So if that was a good restaurant as well. I enjoyed that. So let's support the brother.
Yes.
Now, Representative Jasmine Crockett is not feeling supported, unfortunately, right now. I don't know if you've been following. She's been a little quieter lately because they've been getting on her. But Jasmine Crockett was frustrated because she was going to try and run for a leadership position in Congress as a ranking member of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. And basically, her own people, it be your own people sometime. Sorry, my lack of English properness there, but you know what I'm talking about.
Not today. Today, you say whatever you want to say, how you want to say it today.
Absolutely. So Jasmine Crockett is just a little frustrated with the way the Democratic Party is handling their business. She's a very vocal supporter, and she was called out basically for not being a team player. And basically what she's saying is like, wait, I just raised $4 million for the Democratic Congressional Committee. Went to 100 events as a surrogate for the party. That is kind of the definition of being a team player, and yet they didn't reward her with a leadership role. So Jasmine Crockett is saying that she's going to maybe take a little step back from so much of a national prominent role and really just focus on her community, which has kind of been begging for her to get back down to Texas and engage with them on a more local basis. So, Jasmine Crockett, she's got some great sayings. We alluded to her earlier. Her, what was it? The 6B, the 6 B's that she attributed to Marjorie Taylor Greene. So yeah, she's got some great sound bites that have come out, and but she's a little frustrated right now. Any thoughts about our sister Jasmine Crockett and her frustration? Not much to really talk about. It was just kind of pointing out that
no, she's probably one of the they need to take some lessons about what she does. Somebody had mentioned earlier that they were listening to Hakeem Jeffries, and Hakeem Jeffries had made some great points over the last couple of weeks concerning the bill, but you can't get seen. And for whatever reason, and not even for whatever reason, Jasmine, she does a phenomenal job delivering messages, making it clear, making it understandable, being transparent. A lot of the things we know and we've been following for the last couple months, it's been because Jasmine Crockett comes right out of sometimes mid-meeting and and say, hey, this is what they're talking about in here, y'all, like right now. And so I think, it's her delivery, her transparency, the fact we've seen them attack her as a Black woman. Like we played something, I think, a month and a half ago about, President Trump saying something about her, they'll turn us into,
saying that she wasn't that bright or something like that.
Right. And then, and then his followers begin to talk. Hey, she talks the way she talks. Like they'll take anything that he says and they'll echo it. So I think that rallied more support around Jasmine. But again, let's look at this Democratic. We talked, was it last week? We talked about the Democrats who did not support Al Green's proposal to impeach President Trump.
Right.
And when my question to everybody, our question we posed is, how do you guys feel about that? Because it seemed like the Democrats, or a percentage of them, were in cahoots at this point. And so if they're looking and they're somehow in cahoots with this administration and they don't want to kind of let us know, where it needs to look like a fight. It needs to look like, if we don't, but why would you say that Jasmine's not a team player? Again, raising more money than any of you, getting the message of the Democratic Party out. She's probably the only one that really engages and shows there's still some energy left in the Democratic Party. There's probably 3 to 5 people that if they were the ones running the show, they would have a lot of momentum. So for me, if they're criticizing her, then maybe they are in bed with the other side. That's the only thing I can think. Because what other reason, Curtis, would they be saying she's not a team player? Like, what would be the reason? Too much melanin.
Oh, did I say that? Urkel? No. Anyway.
But
listen,
they
don't like Black women to be too mouthy. They don't like y'all. They want to shut the Black woman up. They want us to, they like their Black women, especially, like they like all their women, generally quiet in the corner somewhere. Used to be barefoot and pregnant. I don't think you can get away with saying that anymore, but you know what it is. So listen, Black women have been overlooked for far too long. They have continued to lead the cause whenever needed, even when our men folk aren't standing up or not available. So I'm always going to side with my sisters, always. And I think that they're intimidated by the beauty, the intelligence, the vibe, the style, the whole thing that is a Black woman. And we see it in spades with Jasmine Crockett. and an intelligent, articulate, attractive person who can clearly articulate their point of view is a big threat to the establishment. And so, and we know that it's not so much about the Democrat and the Republican moniker. It really isn't. So we see her own party not really standing firmly behind her. We should be used to it. We shouldn't have to get used to it, but we should be used to it because it's happened so much. So anyway, that's enough on Jasmine Crockett this afternoon.
Sad reality, though. Sad reality.
Absolutely.
Because there's nothing else makes sense.
Yeah.
There's no other reason why you wouldn't. Cyber Lady said, it feels like the Democrats don't want younger politicians to succeed within the party.
It's the old boys network. You ever heard that the old boys network doesn't become a thing if it isn't rooted in some sort of reality. And we know that this is the case, right? That's why we hear about glass ceilings for women and things of that nature. There is a certain, we've been talking all around it today when we were talking about the 813 billionaires. There is a group of people who want to run everything, right? They just want to be in control of everything. And they are primarily male and almost exclusively white. And I mean, that's just what it is. There's no debating this. There can be no debate. So that is just what it is.
Let me ask you one more thing before you get off that. So if Jasmine Crockett's party turns on her, where does she go?
Listen, there's really nowhere to go as we are currently situated, right?
Right.
There had been some talk. Even Elon was talking about starting a third party. You hear rumblings about third parties. The way we're set up and the money that is in politics today leave her very few options, frankly, because you got to go where the most money is based on the way our politics are. And we talked about this last week. There's so much money in politics now. You have to be aligned with one of those major parties in order to get the funding to come into you. Unless you were just a really rich person and you want to self-fund. And even that has not worked well in the past for people. Right.
Well, listen, I'm gonna do one thing. You're gonna see some policy in a couple months where we leave, and when we leave, listen, I'm gonna do my Suge Knight pitch. All of y'all congressmen and women that's losing your jobs, all the federal people, when we go head over here to Liberia, Sierra Leone, when this deal is signed, you tired of going into the Congress and MAGA all in your face, and you can't use your ideas and implement and change your cities and your country. Yeah, come with us. Come on with us.
Come on.
That's my Suge Knight. That's my Suge Knight. So go ahead. I feel bad for her though, because she does work hard. She's clearly committed to her people, and to lose the faith of the Democratic Party and the support of the Democratic Party because she doesn't want to play along and fall in line, it just is again very, very sad. So we wish you the best, Congresswoman. You do a phenomenal job.
Absolutely. So moving on real quickly, because I think I smell barbecue coming from somewhere.
Yeah. We're gonna wrap up. We're gonna wrap up by the 2:00 hour. Give us 13 minutes.
Let's be out of here.
Let's get through everything and then we'll
These are real quick ones though. I'm hitting this one up because of my affinity and affiliation with the UK, University of Kentucky. I don't know if you recall this. It was a couple of years ago. There was a lot of news coverage about a unmelanated woman back in 2022 who was publicly drunk and was walking around on the campus calling all types of N-words. It was all over the news. It was a big deal. Like I said, a couple of years ago. Sophia Rossing pleaded guilty. 4 counts of 4th-degree assault, 1 count of disorderly conduct and public intoxication in connection with a 2022 attack on a fellow University of Kentucky student, Kyla Spring, who was a black young woman. So she got sentenced to some time in jail. The reason this even comes up is because the student who got sentenced to a year back in October and 100 hours of community service and a $25 fine. That's ridiculous, but okay. But now here it is. Fast forward less than a year later, she's out. She's out. They said they basically said it was overcrowding and credit towards good time. So she was released back in May.
She murdered
they don't
somebody?
do this much for black folks. I'm just saying that.
She murdered somebody?
No, she didn't murder. She only got a year in jail.
Wait.
She was drunk. And she was basically going around going crazy, yelling the N-word to some woman that worked at the school. So
what was the original sentence?
A year. She got sentenced to a year. 1 year in jail, 1,000 hours of community service, and a $25 fine. That was her whole thing. And
did she do the year?
No. This was October of last year. And she's out in May. So she did about 7 months? 6, 7 months? I don't know, my math might be bad, but if she got out in May and she was sentenced in October of the previous year, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. 7 months. Couldn't even have a baby in that time. Well, would have been premature. Anyway, I digress. Anyway.
This is what are we look, there's a reason why we like to start these we like to follow these stories and then see where they end. Because again, it's just a continual. There's a reason. What's the brother's name whose son was killed? Somebody help us out in the chat. Brother's son was killed, and he decided he was going to run over a police officer.
Oh yeah.
This Rodney. What's the? There's a reason. There's a reason why we are cheering for Karmelo Anthony, not the basketball player.
Right.
You know, we reported that he was just, charged with murder. We thought it was going to be, self-defense. And that was that's the story that, he's been adamant on. But we like to start and see where this ends because we just want to continually bring you guys the differences. Because again, if like you said, Curtis, this don't happen many times for black people. The sentences are so severe, and I don't care. You could be in there, you could be in there helping the wardens. You a pastor inside the jail now. You done went totally. You're the model inmate, and you coming for your parole hearings. How many movies do we see? No, denied. So
Shawshank Redemption.
You're not getting out early.
Nope.
So and again, just this is America. Shout out to Childish Gambino.
Pamela asked a great question. Would we get the same sentence? Heck no.
Heck no.
Heck no. We would not get the same sentence.
When history looks back on this, we just want to make sure we document as many of these injustices as possible. Again, here's another one. So, go ahead. We still following what's going to happen with the woman who called the 5-year-old the N-word.
Yeah, absolutely.
Raise $700,000.
Listen, she living good. She is the pride of the trailer park at this point now.
Come on.
She is that woman. But anyway, down in Alabama, a young man by the name of Jabari Peoples, 18 years old, was shot and killed by Homewood police officer on June 23rd at a Homewood soccer park. This is down in Alabama. About 9:30 p.m., an officer who remains unidentified at this point approached a vehicle at the complex, claiming he allegedly smelled marijuana and reportedly saw a handgun in the pocket of the driver's door. As the officers reportedly attempted to arrest people for marijuana possession, a struggle ensued, according to police. And their report, quote, Peoples broke away from the officer and retrieved the handgun from the open driver's side door pocket, creating an immediate deadly threat to the officer. The officer, fearing for his safety, fired one round from his service weapon to defend himself, police said in a statement. Now, there was another young woman in the car. And she, if I'm not mistaken, People's girlfriend, the woman present during the fatal incident, said he was unarmed and didn't resist arrest. And a private investigator commissioned by the family believes Peoples was shot in the back. This story, this story happens time and time again. We could put a lot of different names here rather than Jabari Peoples. But the reason this comes to my attention is, the family's just trying to get the body cam released. Police are not saying there's no body cam. The police are not saying that they don't have the evidence. They're just not releasing it. There's zero accountability here. And that is the disturbing part. You've got an officer of the law. I personally believe with this whole body cam thing, this is my personal belief. If you have a body cam on and there's any kind of incident and your body camera is off for any reason, that officer should be immediately fired. I don't care what the circumstances are. He should be fired just for not having his camera on. If you have the ability to turn a camera off whenever you want, I think that's a fireable offense for a police officer. Because why have the cameras in the first place if you can turn them off whenever you're doing something untoward? The other thing about this that's problematic for me, and you keep hearing it in the same kind of terminology, the officer talking about fearing for his safety and making up this narrative. It's like it's crafted out of some sort of textbook on what you have to say to get off on these things. And it's the same thing over and over and over again. I feared for my life. You know what? If you were that fearful for your life, perhaps you should get a job at the transit system rather than a police officer.
Tell it.
Perhaps you should go get an office job doing taxes rather than carrying a gun and having the ability to take someone's life in a moment without any kind of accountability, without any sort of responsibility. We've talked about it in the past. There are some jobs that there is no leeway. There is no margin for error. And being a police officer and shooting and taking someone's life because you smelled marijuana is a travesty.
Great point, Ron T. Well laid out. Like the miscarriage of justice
Absolutely,
that we
Ron.
continually see. The way you just laid that out, Curtis, the standards that we've talked a lot about, the how difficult it is to be a police officer. That should mean it's difficult to get the job, because if it's a hard job to do, it should be a hard job to get.
Right.
So Ron said not having the body cam on should be the same as obstruction of justice, as it inhibits the law from being able to consider all evidence in order to make an informed decision on a situation like this.
Absolutely.
And again, with an empowered law enforcement that is now getting federal support under executive order. We talked about that a few weeks ago. And the implementation, we've seen this. We've seen officers found guilty, and before the sentencing, here comes a federal deal.
Right.
Here comes a federal settlement. Plea deal after being found guilty. So now we have the total opposite of what we're going to in terms of accountability. So it's going to take us. Shout out to, again, we mention her almost every show. She's doing something incredible. Keandria Damone. You'll see that she's spearheading. She's great at, for those of you who are not following Keandria, what she's great at is, what are the action steps we do? Because a lot of times when things like this happen, we want to do something, but we don't know exactly what to do. And so she's put on her page, brought a lot of attention to the fact we need to call the Alabama law enforcement agency now. We need to demand that they release the body cam footage. So it takes you 30 seconds. As soon as they pick up, hey, you need to release that body cam footage, and then just hang up on them. You know, like if they get 1,000 calls a day, they have to change their number. Great. Mission accomplished. Because we're not going to stop calling until you release the body cam footage. So we got the number up on the screen there for you guys. I'll be calling throughout the day, throughout the weekend. Just call randomly. You ain't got nothing. You sitting around. Hey, man, I'm strolling around. Let me call the ALEA. Hey, release that body cam footage. Click.
Jabari people. So the parallel that we can draw here, and you asked earlier about the name of the gentleman in Ohio. His 18-year-old son, his name was Rodney Hinton. His 18-year-old son was also killed by police. And what we saw in that case was he lost it and just basically killed an officer that really had nothing to do with his son's dying. He just had to strike out at the institution that killed and took his son's life. So, you know, listen, I'm not advocating. I would never advocate for violence. Although, you know, hey, sometimes, yeah, you got to do it, right? There are times when it is justified, but I never advocate for violence. But you have to be able to see how the activities of police, people who are put in a position to protect and serve, allegedly, end up taking lives, and then no accountability is required of them. That's going to cause some people to act out on their own.
You know what that just reminded me of, Curtis? You know, there's a lower sentence or a lesser sentence when you murder someone when they actually did something that caused you to potentially snap.
Justifiable homicide.
There's a reason there's justifiable homicide. Yo, I caught my husband cheating. I shot him 3 times.
There you go.
You know, it's a reaction, and we realize that we have to take into account real things and situations that cause that. So it doesn't, you know, so that's what, listen, we got 400 years. Like I said, we haven't seen it yet, but it wouldn't be surprising to us if some black person ran into it. Hey, this is for my ancestors, and mowed down a whole village of white people. And we wouldn't ever want that. But we'd sit down and say, man, that brother we're all trying to restrain ourselves. That's all we're trying to do every day as Black Americans, is restrain ourselves, because we would be perfectly justified to lash out, to lose it, to snap. But, you know, thank God, I believe we're just a God-fearing people at heart. And that gives us the control to not go out here and raise the hell and get and return what would be absolutely justified. So
absolutely. So call the number, ALEA. It's on the screen there, 205-942-9620. Call, demand that they release that body cam. Just a couple real quick ones. We only have to talk about this one, but the last one's kind of tragic, so I want to get into that a little bit in the last couple minutes we have here. Mexican boxer, those who are boxing fans, Julio Cesar Chavez. That name should ring familiar with any boxing fan, but this is Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who just had a fight last week with Jake Paul. I don't even know who won the fight, frankly.
If Jake Paul was in it, it was set up for him to win.
I guess I don't have to actually know who won. You are absolutely right. Yeah, so we presume that Jake Paul beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., but he also got some bad news a few days later when he got hemmed up by ICE. Apparently, he has a warrant in Mexico. He has overstayed his visa. I wonder if they're going to seize his funds from that fight.
Probably.
Probably. But, shout out to Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who is apparently in the midst of being deported back to Mexico, even now as we speak. So, hey, it happens. We are in that time when no one is immune, apparently. No one is immune. In fact, the more famous you are, perhaps the more likely you are to be targeted. Anyway.
You got to be kidding me. Brittany said, Curtis, did you hear this? This is why we love our co-host. This is crazy. They just announced the UFC fight. The UFC fight will be on the White House lawn next year. Like,
I have not heard it, and I have not fact-checked it, but I believe it's absolutely true.
Can anybody confirm it? Where's Ashton? Where's Ashton? What was his name?
Ashton Kutcher.
Where the heck is he at?
He's behind the camera.
It's got to be the biggest punk episode ever, and this is all going. This is like, well, anyway. Why would we have an entertainer in the White House who's also convicted of multiple felons? He has 34 counts. He's a 34 count felon, and he, his most famous line that everyone knows him for is "You're fired." Why would we think that we wouldn't have a UFC fight on the White House lawn? You got to be kidding me. Thank you for that, Brittany.
We saw Tesla being sold on the White House lawn. Now we've got the potential. I'm not even surprised. And frankly, what the heck? He's going to do it. He's going to make a lot of money off of this. There's no way he's doing it for nothing. He's going to hook up with Dana White and the UFC folks. I absolutely see this happening.
Look, our team just confirmed the details. U.S. President Donald Trump said Thursday that he's thinking of staging a UFC match on the White House grounds with upwards of 20,000 spectators to celebrate 250 years of American independence. We have a lot of land there, said Trump. A UFC enthusiast. All right. Thank you, Brittany. We've confirmed we weren't spoofing you guys. That actually is fact, and it's going to happen.
Oh my goodness,
ladies and gentlemen,
welcome to the clown show. I can't even talk about that as if it's a serious subject.
Let's get through the final hitters.
Last story, and it's sad. I apologize to our audience for even bringing it up after that story. It's just the last one. So this week, sad story out in Idaho, where apparently a young unmelanated man made calls. Well, actually started a fire. Started a little fire out somewhere in the woods, which required firefighters to respond. And it became obvious shortly thereafter that he had lured them. He had used the fire to lure the firefighters to this location for the express purpose of ambushing them and attacking them. There were actually 3 firefighters that were actually shot. 2 of them died. The third was wounded, and I haven't heard about his current state at this point. But at one point, he was in pretty serious condition. Sad state of affairs when the demonic mind would think to start a fire to lure first responders who are there that will respond regardless of your political affiliation. You got a fire, they don't ask Democrat, Republican, they just come and they put the fire out, right? This is just a sad commentary on where we are in America, where someone would do this. And reportedly, I guess, because I think I'd heard something about him being rejected from being a fireman in the past or something. So we are raising some frail people, some frail-minded people these days in America.
Just a
Any
little more.
thoughts on that? I mean, I it's kind of a downer way to end the show, frankly. But this is where we are. I mean, we can't shine this up. This is where we are in America.
Yeah. Says the suspect, Wes Raleigh, age 20, was found dead after an hours-long multi-agency manhunt in that area. Responding SWAT team members located a deceased male on Canfield Mountain with a shotgun nearby. It appears he shot himself. You know, we don't. I mean, we don't address mental health.
Right.
We do a horrible job at so much, and we're just seeing the unravelings of, you know, cracks that we had in our foundation, and we had cracks in our foundation that have split, that have become things that we just, what we're seeing here in 2025 at the time of this recording and at the time we've joined, you know, together here today, is we're just seeing the results of just decades of kicking cans down the road and kicking we'll get to that, and we just never got to it.
Right.
And because there's no way, again, we go back to the guns, we go back to how easy it is to get guns, and then this gentleman, I mean, this, you know, whoever he is, God rest his soul, you know, he starts a fire to murder people. Was he mentally ill? If he was, how did he get a gun? And again, that's America. You can you can get a gun in any state. No mental checks, no mental health checks, not in any state, in any mental state, I mean. So, you know, and rest in peace to the firefighters who showed up to serve, to just thinking they were going to come to work and do, you know, and do their job. And now, you know, their families have lost people. You know, Curtis, you know, as we wrap here, I just want to continually let you guys know who join us that we feel very much, we feel it's our responsibility to not bring you here and speak about negative things without us having at least a dialogue about alternatives. And when we consider the alternatives and the fact it's a lot of times the United States has done a great job of positioning themselves as the world and having us think the United States is the world and everywhere else is some third world country where we're in villages and don't have electricity. But I'd like you guys over the next couple days to visit jointhecall.org. And what you're going to see if you go to jointhecall.org is a petition because we are proposing legislation to this country, to President Trump and to the Republican senators and congressmen to make a deal to send us out and in partnership in America first. We're not anti-American. We're praying for this country. But at the end of the day, if you don't see the need for an alternative, and you know, when we look at what Liberia is and Sierra Leone is, we made a video. I made a video on TikTok and Instagram. If you go to Brother Deshaun, you'll see that we've got a couple 100,000 views collectively, probably 300,000-400,000 views in the last 2 weeks of people saying, listen, we are looking for alternatives and we're not looking to leave empty-handed. We're not looking to leave on bad terms. We're looking to say, listen, President Trump, if you're trying to get people out of the country and you're paying, there's reports that this between the budgets with ICE and between the, you know, Alligator Alcatraz that they just opened, it's going to cost at least $70,000 to $80,000 per year that they're going to have to pay to hold somebody in that facility. So instead of paying $70,000 to $80,000 per year for people who don't, you know, we're going to round them up. Let's make a deal for the people who just for whatever reason don't want to be here right now. Let's take this same money and let's make a diplomatic deal, and let's make a deal where we can, you know, and you'll see this is not a whim. This is not something we're just pulling out of our hat. This is a 25-year-old proposal that we are now bringing back to the public. People have been fighting for this reparations to repatriate proposal for well over 20 years. So if you go to rep2025.org, you can see the proposal to send 2 million people out of America who want to leave and make a deal for infrastructure, for military aid, for defense, and for building of schools in partnership with the U.S. So this is what we're rallying for. We've gotten over 1,000 signatures in the first 2 weeks. And so we're going to continue. Our goal is to get 10,000 signatures by the end of the 90-day period. Meet in Washington, bring this before this administration and say, listen, let's make a deal to get the people out of the country who don't want to be here, who you don't want to be here. We know you. So anyway, it would be much better. And again, I'll end with this. This was Thomas Jefferson's idea. This was Abraham Lincoln's idea. They believed that they saw a future where Black Americans would be happier, and white Americans, for that matter, would be happier if we build independent nations elsewhere. And that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about us going and building nations. This is a time to build. This is a time for new partnerships, new alliances. We see what's happening on the continent of Africa. If that doesn't excite you as a builder to the possibilities, these countries doing free schools, getting control of a couple minerals, and they're able to build military, build their own electric cars. They're like, hey, y'all, this is what we just need. We just need the people out of our pocket to show y'all how beautiful it is here. So I invite you to really explore rep2025.org, jointhecall.org, sign a petition, and then start to look at what's going on. Watch some of these creators on the continent so that you can see how beautiful some of these nations are that they told us don't have internet, don't have building, don't have walls, don't have water. Meanwhile, they only told us that so that they can stay over there and buy stuff up before we got over there.
Exactly.
So I invite you to, that is our solution. That's my solution. That's, it's something we believe in very strongly. So Curtis, to that note, anything you want to end with as we wrap this one up?
I would just say this, and you did a great job of summarizing what rep2025.org is all about. And I definitely encourage people to take a look at that. But even if you're not in the same place as Brother Deshaun is, and understanding different things and biblical implications and things like that, think of it from just a common sense point of view at this point. This is a nation that stole us, brought us here, our ancestors here years ago. We are living amongst we are living in the place that we were stolen and brought to. I don't know how you look at understanding how government works and how government traditionally works and seeing where we are now. I think it's impossible to look at it. And if you are a follower of Christ or one that follows, you have to, I think you have to at least let it entertain in your mind that somehow God is allowing this to happen. Right? For whatever the reason, whether you believe in the prophecy or whatever, is allowing this to happen, because otherwise it just doesn't make sense. It's contrary to everything we've been taught or thought about in the past. Everything that we've been told that made sense and what we're told about this country. So if you're not seriously examining opportunities to leave this country, then I think you may be deluding yourself a little bit, because there are other options available. This is not the only game in town. This is not the only place in town. So we encourage you to get your passports, do your research. I was listening to an Instagram live yesterday where a young lady took off and ended up driving her and her family down to Belize, ended up in Panama. So, there are places that we can go. And we encourage you to take a look at that, because as the analogy we use, the heat is getting turned up. The heat is getting turned up. And we didn't even talk about it. The fact of the matter is that 300,000+ Haitians had their status, legal status removed. That means that people that look like you or me, I don't know, you look like you could be Haitian, Brother Deshaun. I can't tell from looking over here if you're Haitian or not. So
especially
some of our folks are gonna get hemmed up now.
Especially to these ICE agents who think all these black people look alike. Hey,
y'all all look alike. So now it's getting to be the time where, we didn't mind so much when it was Mexicans and South Americans and that sort of thing. But now when people that start looking like you and me are starting to start getting hemmed up, it's going to be a real problematic time. So I encourage you, if you worship God, if you pray to God, I would encourage you to do that and invite wisdom and understanding at this time, and just understanding there are other options. That's it. We made the best of this. It is sometimes difficult to be immersed in all the news and not have it bring you down, frankly, because we care about people that are here, that we care about our loved ones and people that we've known and friends and that sort of thing. A lot of people are getting caught up in this. So we can't help but be concerned about that. Our humanity calls for that, but stay woke.
And we appreciate you guys that come here and help us have fun on things that really are not that fun. You know, Curtis and I said before this show, all right, we got mostly bad news to deliver, but we find a way here with you guys' help to laugh throughout the show. You almost like, wait, was it as serious as it sounded? And I think that's what we continue to, all of us who come here, we're very on point. Like Curtis says, we stay woke. We're very on point, and we leave these shows and we're like, okay, this is serious. We got to stay sober. We got to stay vigilant. We got to stay prayed up, and we got to be ready to move, because when things get bad and we start to see our Black brothers and sisters from other cultures in these detention centers, first Black American we're going to see in a detention center that's going to be like, it's only so long we're going to be able to chill at our house and learn new line dances. Like there's going to come a time where we know, all right, we got to come off the wall now. Like it's real. So we'll be here to we'll be here to dialogue with you guys when that happens. And again, we can't do this show without y'all. So if you've enjoyed what you watched, please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a show. We're here every Friday at noon Eastern time. We wrap up about 2 p.m. unless we go a little longer, but 2 p.m. is usually that's our goal. Yeah. But again, we appreciate y'all sticking out with us. Thank you so much. Have a great week. And we see you, Pamela. Thank you so much. Anita, have a great weekend to you. Thank you. Bonita, always a pleasure, gentlemen. Have a great
be safe out there.
Yeah, be safe in these streets, y'all. Be safe.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Cyber Lady. Coffee was great with the show today. Hey, we're happy to hear that. Hey, listen, we appreciate you guys so much. We will see y'all next week, Friday at noon. Mark your calendars, bring a friend. And that's been This Week in Black America.
Take care, folks.